Okay, thank you for being patient with me. So I'm going to re-record the audio over this. This is me introducing you to Opal, who I'm holding down in that corner. So we're starting with opening your Fireside Poets TP cast activity. And then I start by opening that first link, which is the TP cast PowerPoint. And it walks you through everything that you have done before. You've done TP casts for poetry before, but it just walks you through what each of those things stand for. So the T stands for title, the initial meaning. It's asking what you think the poem was about before you start reading. So be sure to answer that. Then you move on to paraphrase. It's going sentence by sentence, not line by line, but sentence by sentence, and putting it into your own words. So when you're reading, you want to talk about what each line means to you and how you can change the wording to make it easier to understand. And then, so sentence by sentence means going to the punctuation. Okay, so connotation is the connotation of the language. This is where if there's a metaphor, you want to talk about what that metaphor is all about. So it's the structure, word choice, symbolism, looking for deeper meaning, discussing imagery and its effect on the reader, metaphor and simile and their effect on the reader, rhyme scheme, end rhyme, internal rhyme, alliteration, mood, allusion, punctuation, personification, all of that. So it's taking those different elements and discussing how they affect the reader and show the deeper meaning. Attitude is finding the author's tone, so how the author is speaking and what makes them write in this particular way. So tone can be uplifting or not. Okay, so a shift is where you look for shifts in tone, action, and rhyme. So don't just write where it is, but how it impacts the rest of the piece. So if the tone goes from really morose to really uplifting, like in Push that we read earlier, it had a really uplifting tone and then it kind of shifted to say that this is for the incapable, but it was still uplifting, just shifted the way that it discussed it. So action could also be a shift if it's really not a lot's happening and something changes, or if it has like very little happening and then a lot begins to come in. And then rhyme could be if it's A, B, A, B, and then it switches to B, C, B, C, or something like that. Finally, you go back to title to see if you guessed its original meaning correctly. Does the poem have a different meaning than what you had originally expected? Does the title properly introduce the piece? Things like that. And then theme is what the poem means, what the poem's saying, how it relates to life, what you can learn from it. So what its overall idea is. So then we go on to the poems, which I'm going to read for you. So we start with Old Ironsides. Thanatopsis is the easiest one, I think, to do, although it's a little bit longer. So we start with Old Ironsides by Oliver Wendell Holmes. It says, I tear her tattered ensign down, long as it waved on high, and many an eyes danced to see that banner in the sky. Beneath it rung the battle's shout and burst the cannon's roar. The meteor of the ocean air shall sweep the clouds no more. Her deck once red with heroes' blood, where knelt the vanquished foe, when winds were hurrying o'er the flood and waves were white below. No more shall feel the victor's tread or know the conquered knee. The harpies of the shore shall pluck the eagle of the sea. Then, oh, better than her shattered hulk should sink beneath the wave. Her thunder shook the mighty deep, and there should be her grave. Nail to the mast her holy flag, set every threadbare sail, and give to her, the god of storms, the lightning and the gale. So this is where I show you that when you go line by line, you really go to the end punctuation. So here, of course, that end punctuation is at the end of the line. But then as you go down, you see you can go to that semicolon because it does technically break up that independent clause, but really you could go all the way to that exclamation point for that paraphrase. That would also be appropriate. Same here, it goes, it's many lines make up that one line that would be paraphrased. So again, it's not just where it starts with her, where, when, and, it's each sentence. Okay, so your next poem is The Tide Rises and the Tide Falls by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. The tide rises, the tide falls, the twilight darkens, the curlew calls, along the sea sands damp and brown, the traveler hastens toward the town, and the tide rises, and the tide falls. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in the darkness calls. The little waves with their soft white hands efface the footprints in the sands, and the tide rises, and the tide falls. The morning breaks, the steeds in their stalls stamp and neigh as the hostler calls. The day returns, but nevermore returns the traveler to the shore, and the tide rises, and the tide falls. All right, so your last one is Thanatopsis. This is the one that I think is easier. It's by William Cullen Bryant. To him who in the love of nature holds communion with her visible form, she speaks a various language. For his gayer hours she has a voice of gladness, and a smile and eloquence of beauty, and she glides into his darker musings with a mild and healing sympathy that steals away their sharpness ere he is aware. When thoughts of the last bitter hour come like a blight on thy spirit, and sad images of the stern agony and shroud and pall and breathless darkness and the narrow house make thee to shudder and grow sick at heart, go forth under the open sky and list to nature's teachings, while from all around, earth and her waters and the depths of air comes a still voice. Yet a few days, and thee, the all-beholding sun, shall see no more in all this course, nor yet in the cold ground, where thy pale form was laid with many tears, nor the embrace of the ocean shall exist thy image. Earth that nourished thee shall claim thy growth to be resolved to earth again, and lost each human trace, surrendering up thine individual being, shalt thou go to mix forever with the elements, to be a brother to the insensible rock and to the sluggish clod, which the rude swain turns with his share and treads upon. The oak shall send his roots abroad and pierce thy mold, yet not to thine eternal resting place shalt thou retire alone, nor couldst thou wish couch much more magnificent. Thou shalt lie down with patriarchs of the infant world, with kings, the powerful of the earth, the wise, the good, fair forms, and hoary seers of ages past, all in one mighty sepulchre. The hills rock-ribbed and ancient as the sun, the vales stretching in pensive quietness between the venerable woods, rivers that move in majesty, and the complaining brooks that make the meadows green, and poured round all old oceans, that's capitalized, gray and melancholy waste, are but the solemn decorations all of the great tomb of man. The golden sun, the planets, all the infinite host of heaven are shining on the sad abodes of death through the still lapse of ages. All that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Take the wings of morning, pierce the Barcan wilderness, or lose thyself in the continuous woods where rolls the Oregon and hears no sound save his own dashings. Yet the dead are there, and millions in those solitudes, since first the flight of years began, have laid them down in their last sleep. The dead reign there alone. So shalt thou rest, and what if thou withdraw in silence from the living, and no friend take note of thy departure? All that breathe will share thy destiny. The gay will laugh when thou art gone, the solemn brood of care plod on, and each one, as before, will chase his favorite phantom. Yet all these shall leave their mirth and their employments, and shall come and make their bed with thee. As the long train of ages glide away, and the sons of men, the youth of life's green spring, and he who goes in the full strength of years, matron and maid, the speechless babe, and the gray-headed man, shall one by one be gathered to thy side, by those who in their turn shall follow them. So live, that when thy summons comes to join the innumerable caravan which moves to that mysterious realm where each shall take his chamber, in the silent halls of death, thou go not like the quarry slave at night, scourged to his dungeon, but sustained and soothed by an unfaltering trust. Approach thy grave like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. All right, so once you come back to this, you see that you have your objectives. So you're going to do objectives 1, 2, and 3 for sure. And then you have the choice of doing objective 4 or 5. So then you need to complete the Fireside Poet's final question. So you'll do 4 objectives, again, 1 through 3, and then you have the choice of 4 or 5. And then if you go up to this corner where I'm clicking, you see that you have your list of things that need to be done. That is to show you exactly what you need to do. So you'll put down here, after you've chosen your poem, you'll insert the poem's title and be sure to put it in quotation marks. Because as you do this, you'll be able to paraphrase, find connotation, find the theme of the poem, and then you'll either identify the audience and attitude or identify and explain the importance of the poem's shift. So that's where you'll put the quote. So this first activity is where you paraphrase the poem. So this is where you get to pick the learning style that works best for you. So you'll choose one of the following activities, but to paraphrase, look up here at the top, you see that Shakespeare says, "We are all such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep." Now, it would be incorrect to paraphrase by saying, "We are things of dreams, and our small life will end with slumber." That's too similar. To paraphrase, you would say, "We're mortal, and we'll die eventually." That is paraphrasing what Shakespeare would say. So what you're going to do is you're going to paraphrase the entire poem, and you're going to do it through your learning style. So you choose one of these activities. So if you are a visual and tactile person, you can draw a series of political cartoons. If you're an auditory and tactile person, you can write a lyrical song or rap that paraphrases the poem. If you are an auditory person, you can create and record a podcast that paraphrases the poem. Or if you're a kinesthetic person, you can write and act out and record a sketch that paraphrases the poem. Regardless of which one you choose, you will do that to paraphrase the poem, and then down below where it says insert objective 1 choice here, you will either upload it or upload a photo or type out what it is. You will insert it right there so that I can find it. So once you've done that, you'll move on to objective 2 where you find the connotation of the poem. This is the deeper meaning of the poem. And what you're going to do here is if there's a metaphor, you say what the metaphor is, you explain it, and then you describe its effect on the reader. So again, you're going to choose one of the following activities to complete based on your appropriate learning style. So if you're visual, you can create a poster. If you're tactile, a comic book. Auditory, an interview with the author. And kinesthetic, a song and corresponding music video to identify the figurative language. So regardless, again, you'll choose which one you do. Then you will copy, paste, and insert your objective choice below. So again, this is easy because you know how to do these things, but you're presenting it in a way that is unique to your style of learning. So for theme, you're just identifying the theme. That is the the moral or lesson of the story. And so to do that, you can, again, have your learning style choice. You can make a 3D model, you can cook up a written menu, you can create a dramatic movie trailer, you can find a poem that's with a similar theme and explain why it would better represent the Fireside Poets, and write a paragraph and explain why it would fit better. Regardless of which one you choose, again, you will put it down below where you insert objective 3. Now, onto your choice. So you can choose for objective 4 or 5 if you want to discuss audience and attitude, or if you'd rather discuss the shift. So you choose that, and then you choose which of the following activities you want to do to explain it. So if you want to do a newsletter, or a short story, or a TikTok, the final one is your choice. Just be sure that you run it by me first. And I know I've already gotten a ton of emails for people who have different ideas. So once you've done that, you will insert objective 4 or 5 choice there. And then finally, just to show me that you understood everything that you just did, because sometimes creativity needs a little bit extra to show its understanding, you'll go through these questions. So who the poem's for, the title of the poem, a 3-sentence paraphrase, how the figurative language is used, the speaker's tone. Number 6 is important. Who is speaking? That's not going to be your author. It's your narrator, but who is that narrator? Is it third person omniscient? Is it someone in the story? That you have to determine. Number 7, where does the poem's tone shift? 8, what is the theme of the poem? And 9, why is the poem's title what it is? So again, it's just going through that TP-cast that you know already, but it's putting it into a form that is unique to your learning style. So at this point, I did say, if you watched this video, I gave you a code word to send me in a message, and that code word was Fireside. So if you want to send me that, that would be great. And then from here, I just explained that each of these things, if you look over that table of contents, it shows you each of the things that you'll be graded on. So just be sure to double check yourself to make sure that you've hit all of your objectives. It's 1 through 3, and then you have the choice of 4 or 5, and then you finally end with your questions. So thank you for being patient with me as I re-record the audio over this. I'm not sure what happened,